Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Dr. Crane, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday morning, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Hope everybody is having a great start to their Tuesday. Of course, last night, not so much fun. The Predators fall 3-2 to the Sharks, and with the Kings getting a win over the Kraken, Nashville officially has been eliminated from playoff contention. So we will talk plenty about that. Dr. Crane, how's it going this morning?
Good morning, Jake Lyman. Glad to see you back in the saddle.
Yes, it is. It is great to have you back in studio. We've got 9 days till the draft as well, so we will talk some NFL draft throughout the show. Nashville SC getting ready for a late night game tonight in Mexico City. So we'll get Dr. Crane's thoughts. He's our NSC expert. But I did want to start off the show by just quickly addressing Dave McGinnis, Coach Dave McGinnis, passing away yesterday. The Titans announced late yesterday afternoon. Coach Mack obviously had become a staple in this city as a football voice, working with the Titans radio. Of course, was on Jeff Fisher and Mike Munchak's staff with the Titans. I only got to meet Coach Mack one time. I was up in the press box at a Titans game, and we talked for a couple of minutes. He was very gracious with his time. Well liked, loved by everybody he seemed to come across. So I do want to give our condolences, thoughts and prayers to his family as he passed away after battling an illness yesterday. So, obviously, tough news, and I'm sure the Titans will do a great job honoring his memory throughout the season.
Indeed, yeah. It's hard to find people like that are just, like you say, gracious with their time and also just have a personality of gold.
Right.
I think that's a hard thing to find in today's day and age, is people that are just, natural with their selves. It's just unfortunate. I know he was, like you said, with the Titans for a long time, up to 2011, coaching, and then went with Jeff Fisher to St. Louis.
Right.
So that is, you can tell there's a good bond between him and Jeff Fisher in that case. But hate it for his family. Just condolences to his family in general, because it's a tough thing to see someone be lost like that.
Yeah.
Just unfortunate.
I mean, one of those guys that you could feel his infectious personality through the radio when he was working with Mike Keith and this past year with Taylor Zarzer. So again, our thoughts and prayers to the McGinnis family. Again, I only met him once, but it was a pleasure to meet him, and obviously very tough news that we saw yesterday with the Titans. So excited to see how the Titans are able to honor him throughout this season, of course. And I'm sure that Taylor Zarzer will make sure that his memory lives on up there in the Titans radio booth. But let's get into the Preds here. The Predators falling last night 3-2. It was a tough one overall. You fall behind early, 2-0, end of the second period. Just felt like there wasn't a whole lot of rhythm on the attack as the Predators tried to get anything going against Nedeljkovic on that goal line, and had some opportunities, but just really nothing high danger. You were able to get the 2 goals from Luke Evangelista late, but it ended up being too little, too late. And of course, scoreboard watching, the Kraken tried to make it a game late against the Kings, but you couldn't get that to go your way either. Predators eliminated from playoff contention for the second consecutive year.
Yeah, it is very unfortunate to watch the Preds just kind of dwindle down like that in the second to last game of the season. I mean, the one factor I think you could go back and watch is that the Preds would give the puck up a lot in the neutral zone. That's something that was kind of their downfall last night. Like you said, they couldn't string together a good enough amount of passes to really get some high chance attacking purposes on the offensive side of the puck. But overall, this team, to me, showed a lot of grit last night. I was kind of one of the only ones to say they'd make the playoffs back in November. Now they're not going to make it, obviously, because of standings purposes. But one guy, and I mentioned this to you before the show, that I was surprised in, obviously, the 2 goals last time was Luke Evangelista.
Yeah.
Overall, that contract, I think he's lived up to the expectation of that contract. And I'm trying to look too much into the offseason here, but I think that's somebody you got to just say, hey, he's earned his stripes a little bit. The fact that he is bought in. So that's something you need to see to this team going forward.
100%. I think Luke Evangelista, especially, he missed most of training camp with that contract dispute. I don't know what the expectations really were for Luke Evangelista after a disappointing year last year. You thought he was ready to take a big step and didn't. This year he did. I mean, second on the team in assists. He didn't score a ton, but 12 goals, 42 assists. That's a 54-point season for Luke Evangelista. I think if you had said to any Preds fan at the beginning of the year, you would have taken that. And for somebody who had only had 10 goals heading into last night's game, to show the grit, like you said, to get out behind the defense and get the I guess you couldn't say a breakaway goal, but like got behind the D, one-on-one with the goalie and finished to make it 2-1. And then you score battling in front of the net to make it 3-2. I do wonder if the Preds pulled the goalie too early. It was what, 2 minutes, 13 seconds left that they pulled the goalie. I get it. Your season's on the line. You want to give your offense the best and most opportunities to go try and tie that game. But I don't know. 2:13 felt like a lot of time. And of course, Macklin Celebrini was able to find the empty net, and the game felt over at that point, even though Evangelista was able to score a minute later.
Yeah, I look at it from a perspective of when you're trying to really cycle the puck around, and that's something the Preds were not really able to do efficiently last night. I think at 2 minutes when they did bring out Justus Annunen to get that extra attacker with 6. I think it was the smart move. It's just unfortunate the Preds couldn't really string together the passes. That was their big downfall overall. The neutral zone, also in the attacking zone, whatever it may be. But overall, seeing I guess, maybe the lack of production from certain players.
Yeah.
I mean, Phil Forsberg had his chances on net. Stamkos had his chances on net. But again, when you're not able to string together those passes, you can't open up spots for them to score. And I thought that was something that was missed last night.
Couple of notes from last night's game. Justus Annunen got the start, and I don't think he was bad. The first goal went short side on him. Like it wasn't an easy save, but I felt like it was one he probably should have had. The second goal, the turnover that led, I mean, Celebrini from the slot, like you're probably not stopping that one very often. But I don't think that you can look and say that the goalie decision cost the Preds one way or the other. I blame the loss last night on the offense.
Well, he also, too, that second goal for San Jose, some people are discussing that as not being the icing.
The icing call was...
It was more offsides than anything. Even San Jose's broadcast was like, is that not offsides?
I know. Watching this, the clip from San Jose, like I was watching the Preds broadcast, but like I saw the clip from San Jose and you can hear the icing. They called icing there. And then they go, I think this is going to go to center ice. And no, it's going down deep into the Preds zone. I was shocked by that. And I couldn't tell. I kept trying to zoom in on the the Twitter video and see if it crossed the line. I just think if the goalie plays the puck, you can't call that icing. Like you got to put that at center ice. And then it ended up Barron turns it over at the blue line. It leads directly to the goal. That was a really tough call. And again, I don't know if it went across the goal line, but if the goalie plays it, I feel like you can't put that back in the Pred zone.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And again, you could say you're blaming the referees for one call that may change the season, whatever it may be. But again, for 2 periods, the Preds were not efficient. They were not there cognitively trying to score. I mean, they were, but like not to the level of the third period with like 5 to 6 minutes left because Evangelista took over the game at that point.
Yeah, and Evangelista, again, it's great to see him score those goals, but you need to play a full 60 minutes. And when you're down 2-0 and you can't get on the board until the final 4 minutes of the game, probably not going to have a lot of opportunities. It snaps a 15-game winning streak against the San Jose Sharks. And again, locks up all 16 playoff spots in the NHL now, as the Kings and Ducks have both clinched. They have not sorted out who's going to be in the wild card spot yet, who's going to get the third spot in the Pacific, is right now the Kings are 1 point back of the Ducks, but that will be sorted out over the next few days. In the East, Philadelphia clinched the final spot in the Metropolitan Division with a win last night in a shootout. So all 16 spots are now filled in the NHL playoffs. We will find out seeding coming up over the next few days as the season wraps up on Thursday. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. You can text or call if you want to join the conversation. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll take your reaction on the Preds being eliminated from playoff contention. One more game coming up on Thursday against Anaheim. We will continue to talk Preds coming up next, get into some of the big takeaways from this season. We'll also get into what is going to be a very long and a very important offseason for this Predators team. Not only a new GM coming in, you're now in the lottery, and you've got a lot of big decisions to make on some veteran players on this roster. So we'll talk about all of that throughout the show. We'll talk Titans, we'll talk NSC, and much more. We are off and running on this Tuesday morning. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Nick Frazier, our Ella fella.
Just digging it today. Preds need a lot of this right now. They need a little dandelion patch.
Little dandelion.
Yeah.
We are talking about the Predators as they were eliminated from playoff contention last night. A 3-2 loss to the San Jose Sharks. And with the Kings win over the Kraken, the Kings officially clinching a playoff spot. The Preds become the final team eliminated from the NHL playoffs. For the Predators, I think you look back on this season and there are a couple ways you could take it, right? Like, obviously, they weren't good enough, especially with the investment in this roster that was made 2 summers ago. Everybody looks back to that opening of free agency where you signed Stamkos and Shea and Marchessault, and you look back now 2 seasons later, you've missed the playoffs in both seasons. It was a miss. But I think you could also look at it and say, since December, this was a playoff team, right? They played well enough to be a playoff team over the last 4 months of the season. That's not how this works, right? Like, if you're the worst team in hockey on December 1st, you're going to have to be better than just a playoff team to actually make it in. And for the Predators, you're going to have to make some decisions on, was the team that we saw through late December into January, is that something that can be bottled up and you can recreate it next year? Or do you need to move on from some of these big name veterans and try and embrace the youth movement with the prospect pool that you have?
I think it comes down to obviously the GM and whatever else is along.
Right. It's going to be his decision.
Right. But looking at this roster from this past season, 2 players I think need to be either shipped off and or not re-signed. One of them has to be Eric Halla, even though he was a really good contributor to this team. I just don't see a contract like that. You know, obviously he's going to be a UFA this upcoming offseason. But then another guy you look at is Jonathan Marchessault. And I mean, it didn't really work out well for him. You could say Brady Shea a little bit too. I think he kind of came into his own a little bit near the end of the season.
Yeah.
But I mean, as for right now, I think Marchessault and Halla are the ones that I'd kind of stay away from.
Well, yeah, Halla, that was the one move I was shocked that Barry Trotz didn't make at the deadline. That's a guy you got on a 1-year deal. I mean, we're both big baseball guys. And how many times do teams that are on the edge of the playoff race, it's like, all right, we're not going full sell, but we signed this guy to a 1-year deal. He's playing pretty well. Let's go get what we can for him. And I was stunned that Barry Trotz did not trade Eric Halla at the deadline. Now he's going to walk for nothing, most likely. And I think I'm okay with that. If that opens up a spot for a younger guy, like Brady Martin is going to be the focal point of camp next year as they gear up for the season. He made the team out of camp this year, but obviously didn't play very much and then went back to juniors. I think there's a decent chance that he's able to make the team out of camp and stay full-time with the Predators next year. And if you can get him a spot on the roster, I think it's beneficial to the long-term hopes for this team, because you draft a guy 5 overall. He's expected to be one of those franchise pillars for the Predators for a very, very long time. And then Matt Wood, I think, is also another guy that you look at and say, with the way he finished this season, after going back down to Milwaukee, coming back after the Olympic break, he was one of the Predators' best players on the ice for the last 2 months of the season. I'd like to see him consistently in a top 6 role. It seems like center is where they want him to stick, but they could bounce him back out to the wing. I think those 2 guys are going to be really crucial. And then you've got spots too. You mentioned, I think Brady Shea sticks around. I struggle to see you moving that contract. And you're right, he did start to figure it out a little bit. But Tanner Molendyk, I think, should be on the Preds roster next year. That's a first-round pick who he didn't have the best year down in Milwaukee, but it's a guy that they're excited about. And I think it's time that he's finally a full-time part of this Predators roster. You got decisions to make on the veteran guys, but I also think next year is going to revolve a lot around your big prospects, your young prospects, stepping up and seeing what they can do at the NHL level.
Yeah, one of those younger players that I'll kind of single out is Fedor Svechkov. I know they signed him to like a 2-year contract not this past offseason, but during the season, that is. And for him to only have 4 goals and 13 assists, to me, you got to see a little bit more. And again, that's a guy that even Barry Trotz talked about near the beginning of the season, where he just wasn't really, feeling it. And I just think that's somebody that needs a little bit more, I guess, experience at the Milwaukee level rather than the Preds level. And again, that's because of the position this roster was in. They kind of needed the depth. They needed the extra depth at that center position. So Matthew Wood, to your point, yeah, I think he stays up and they just kind of work with what they got around that. As for a few other players that are either in Milwaukee right now or, they just signed Aiden Fink. I don't know how, that will play out.
And it looks like he's going to play on Thursday.
Well, really?
Yeah, that's Alex Doherty put that out and said, For those who care, Aiden Fink might make his NHL debut on Thursday. So
would love to see that.
I mean, you're eliminated from playoff contention. Why not? It doesn't take a year off his contract. I mean, to play one game. So I don't hate it.
Yeah, not at all. And look, he's done so well at Penn State. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I think he has over 100 points now with Penn State as this past season, excuse me. And then along with that, he has 10 points in 6 games.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, he was David Poyle's last draft pick, right? Like the last pick in the draft.
And it makes
Sometimes it works out.
It makes you wonder too the trajectory of the Preds now with Barry Trotz out of the equation and David Poyle out of the equation. What this new GM role will look like when it comes to draft time, because it'll show the true direction of this franchise.
Yeah, and I heard Robbie say towards the end of the morning show that maybe we could see some news on that front in the next week or two. They got the ball rolling pretty early on this to try and give them a long runway. As Bill Haslam said, get your line in the water first. And now we've seen other GM openings happen. You're out ahead of the pack. I think you'd like to be able to make a decision on that probably in the next couple of weeks, just to give the new GM time to make decisions. Andrew Brunette, I mean, there's got to be a decision there. I don't know if I would say he has to be fired, but it's been a long time that he's been on the hot seat, right? Like there was talk of, man, should he be fired after last season when they were the 3rd worst team in the NHL? There was a lot of calls for him to be fired after the slow start this season. Barry Trotz stuck it out with him. We'll have to see what the new GM's thoughts are. Does he want to bring in his own guy? And gearing up for free agency and the draft and the big decisions you have to make on your own roster, I think you'd like to have somebody in place to start that process as early as possible. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've narrowed it down to a pool here and maybe they have a hire within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder too with the whole Andrew Brunette system as a whole. Like, to me, the way that system is supposed to work, from what I've read in the past, there was an article of how he compared it to soccer. Somebody wrote about it, and it mentioned Ginga pressing. And that's like, when you lose the puck, you're immediately pressing and playing defense in their zone. To me, you got to have young players with healthy legs for that. And I think that's why Preds fans saw so much success from this team in the latter part of the season, was because of the young players doing all the dirty work for all these vets that are kind of positioning themselves on the ice for those scoring chances.
Yeah, it is funny. You look at probably the most successful periods of Andrew Brunette's tenure here has been with a lot more young guys on the roster. You look back at the very end of his first season and the long point streak in his second season when they went and played Vancouver in the playoffs. Like it happened with a lot of young guys on the roster. So maybe that's the idea, is go with the youth movement, but that's going to be up to the new GM, and who they bring in is likely going to have different ideas from what's been done in the past if they go out of the family, the proverbial family. So I'm interested to see what this offseason looks like. It's going to be a long offseason. And it's going to come with a lot of big decisions about this team, not just for the short term, not just for next season, but for the long term. This team does have a good prospect pool. I think they are, and the Athletic article that ranked the 32 prospect pool said that this is one of the deeper ones across the entire NHL. It's missing that cherry on top, the elite prospect that you can center your entire organization around. The Preds don't have that. Like Brady Martin, very good prospect. Igor Surin, very good prospect. But I don't think you look at those guys and say they're Macklin Celebrini, who we saw last night, which, again, there's not very many Macklin Celebrinis. It's not like they grow on trees, but you're missing that guy. The Predators, again, something I heard Robbie say is like full-on rebuild isn't really necessary because you do have a good prospect pool. I think instead of saying full-on rebuild, you need to win the lottery one year. Like that's what the Predators need at this point, is you need the ping pong balls to bounce your way. Your odds aren't going to be very good this year. I think right now the Preds have the 11th best odds in the lottery. So the Islanders, we saw, they jumped up last year to get Schaefer, but you're not exactly one of the favorites. I think that can improve based on how things go over the next few days, but you need to win the lottery or get close to winning the lottery and get one of those aircraft carrier level players who, yes, Brady Martin, going to be a key piece if this team is going to be a cup contender over the next decade. Same thing with Surin and hopefully Molendijk. But you do need to find that guy who can be the centerpiece. And right now they don't have it. So maybe full on rebuild isn't the right way to say it, but you may need 1 year where you're not very good. And maybe that's what the GM thinks heading in as he takes over this year is let's get rid of some of the veterans. Let's go young. And if we're bad, we're bad.
Hypothetical for you. Say the ping pong balls do bounce in the Preds direction and in their favor, that is. Gavin McKenna. You think that kind of resets things for them, or is there still more of a building block?
Well, yeah, like McKenna, I don't think he's had the year right that everybody expected that would have put him as like the surefire number one. I think he still is expected to go first overall, but I think that would probably be enough to make you feel better about the youth movement coming up.
Right.
Like obviously, Forsberg and Yossi aren't going anywhere. I think those are guys who you're going to build statues right next to Pekka outside of Bridgestone Arena. But I think almost everybody else could be on the table to be moved. It's going to depend on the degree of which the new GM wants to embrace the young players who are coming up through Milwaukee, through juniors, etc.
Yeah. And, talking about Milwaukee just for a quick second, like I'm with you on the whole Tanner Molendijk thing. Like, let's see a little bit more out of him. Like, I would like to see him playing with this top tier team. That is the case. If that is what they choose, like you mentioned about what's his name, just dropping his name earlier, forgetting my brain's having a brain loss here. My goodness. The forward.
Surin?
Yeah, Igor. No, not Surin.
Martin?
No. My goodness, we were just talking about him. Gonna play him.
Fink.
Aiden Fink. You bring up a guy like Aiden Fink, you don't know what you have in him. You're gonna play with the older guys. How about you do the same thing with Molendijk?
Yeah, and you got Riker Lee coming up too. I mean, he's probably a few years away. He's still playing college, but they've got options coming up through the ranks.
Was just playing the Frozen Four, by the way.
Right,
played really well.
So they've got options coming up through the prospect pool, whether that's through Milwaukee, through juniors. I think this team isn't too far away from having that young core, but I do think you need another one of those elite level prospects, and the only way that happens is if the ping pong balls bounce your way.
And another thing to this roster construction right now, how many of these vets, like a Stamkos or like you mentioned, Forsberg and Yossi, are going to be one of those other guys that are going to have a statue next to Pekka? I get all that. But like, how many of those guys are really going to be a building block for this next core? That's my issue, is because you have guys signed through 28, 29, 29, 30. How do you differentiate that to say, hey, we're going to keep you to help build with that? But yet those are veteran guys that want to win now.
Yeah, that's a big question for the new GM is like, what is the timeline here? And how do you get this team on that timeline to be a cup contender again, right? Like that's the goal. It's not just to be in and around the playoff race like the Preds are almost every year. The goal is to compete for a Stanley Cup. And I think the new GM has to be able to map out what that looks like. How are we going to maneuver this roster heading into this next year that sets us up for this young core, along with veteran pieces, of course. Like you're not going to win with a bunch of 23-year-olds, but you have to be able to kind of balance that in the right way of moving on from some pieces that may not be worthwhile on your roster anymore, while also keeping guys who are going to help those young players grow. So the new GM, whoever he may be, and hopefully we find out somewhat soon what the Predators are thinking there, is going to have a very important offseason this year as he steps into that chair. And we will talk more about that later on in the show. Again, the Preds eliminated from playoff contention last night with their loss to San Jose, along with the Kings' win over the Kraken. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. You can text or call if you have any thoughts. Tee it up with us at the 5th Annual 615 Open, May 28th at Hermitage Golf Course. We are once again supporting Folds of Honor to help them fund life-changing scholarships for families of America's fallen heroes. Register now to play or sponsor at 615open.com. We will get into the NFL draft when we come back. We are 9 days away from draft night. The Titans rumored to possibly be looking at Ohio State linebacker Sonny Styles. How big of a need overall is linebacker for the Titans? We'll talk about that. And also, ESPN released their NFL draft superlatives. And I scrolled through it. There's 50 different superlatives on there of different things that certain prospects do the best in this class. And I think it might make the Titans' choice at number 4 pretty easy. We'll get into that coming up over the next hour. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Today, Vanderbilt baseball takes on Lipscomb at Dugan Field. First pitch is at 6 o'clock, and you can catch all of the action on 94.9 The Fan. Coverage is presented by Gary Force Acura. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on your Tuesday morning. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Talk some Preds to start off the show. Preds eliminated from playoff contention last night. We'll get back into Smashville later in the show as we look ahead at a very important offseason for that franchise. But the Titans getting ready for the NFL draft. Now just 9 days away, a week from Thursday. Titans getting ready to make their pick at number 4, and still a lot of unknown about what might be available to them and what they want to do. We will hear from Mike Borgonzi on Thursday in his pre-draft press conference. So again, nobody's giving too much away in those press conferences, but maybe you can glean a little nugget or two from what Mike Borgonzi has to say on Thursday. So that'll be interesting. But something that Teron Davenport brought up to us last week is that Sonny Styles is definitely a contender to be picked at number 4. It's a player that I think everybody realizes is a really good prospect, but off-ball linebacker is just one of those positions. Like, you talk about positional value, off-ball linebacker might be at the very bottom. I mean, I saw the tweet from, it was a few weeks ago, of all of the off-ball linebackers picked in the first round over the last 15 years and how few of them actually got second contracts with the team that drafted them. So off-ball linebacker, not exactly a position that you want to take at number 4. But Sonny Styles clearly is viewed as an outlier when it comes to that, with what he's able to do on the field, the athletic testing that he had. It's like, if he was a wide receiver, he would have had like a 9.9 athletic score or something like that. So if he's the best player and the Titans look and say, we are getting a future Hall of Famer linebacker at number 4, and Bailey and Reese are gone, then I can understand it. I do just wonder for the Titans overall, what do they need at linebacker? Like, if they don't take Sonny Styles, is that still a position that they're going to value later in the draft, just based on Robert Saleh's defense and what he wants to do on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I think it's still a valued position. I would say not as a day 2 pick, though. I think more of like a day 3. Because right now you have Cody Barton, Cedric Gray. Who else is back
James
there?
Williams.
James Williams.
They signed somebody else too, like not somebody who you expect to start, but somebody who could be a depth piece.
Right, a rotational linebacker. I mean, yeah, I think it is a position of need in some aspects. I don't think it's a day 2 type pick. Reason being is because we saw what the Titans did last year with Femi Oladejo. I don't think you can take a flyer on a off the ball linebacker in the second round and or third round. I think that's something you address in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds, because to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, but like a off the ball linebacker, I would value that the same as a running back on the offensive side of the ball coming off their first contract. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the need for it is there, but it's not oh my gosh, we got to sign you to an X amount of dollars. That's kind of how I value that position when it comes to the draft. Like, it's a need, but in the 4th, 5th, or 6th round.
I do look at the way Robert Saleh runs his defense, though, and he does love having, I mean, Fred Warner is the example that everybody's going to use with the 49ers, is having a guy who can cover hash to hash. He can carry the tight ends up the middle of the field. Like, it is valuable in this Robert Saleh defense. And if he looks at the current group, and the name I was forgetting is Mohamed Diabate, who they signed out of he was out of Utah originally, but they brought him in, I think, from Cleveland previously. So they're not very deep there. Like, if you look at it, it's Barton, it's Gray, it's James Williams, and then there's really not much left there. Dorian Mossy, who was a waiver claim last year ahead of coming out of training camp. So I could see them using a pick there, but I agree with you. I think it's like you either take Sonny Styles 4th overall or you wait until the 5th round. Like, I think that's kind of the way off-ball linebacker is valued, unless you are a freak and you are basically what Sonny Styles is. You're probably not going to be picked all that high in the draft. So I would get it if they took Sonny Styles, but I agree with you. If you don't take him, I don't know if I would value that position enough to use a second or third round pick on it. I know a lot of people really like Jacob Rodriguez, and I do too. I mean, he's a really good player, had a historic season at Texas Tech this year, but especially if you're not getting an edge rusher or a wide receiver at number 4, like let's say you do go Jeremiah Love at 4, I don't know if you can go Love Rodriguez with your first 2 picks. Like, I think you do need to add somebody as a pass rusher. You need to add pass catchers for Cam Ward. You need to help the interior of the offensive line, which is probably the biggest question mark on this roster right now. I think all of those would take priority for me over off-ball linebacker.
Yeah, because like you said, if you go and get Jeremiah Love and then like Jacob Rodriguez, there's a drop-off there. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's a drop-off from pick 1 to 2. And adding to that, like you mentioned Sonny Styles, and I mentioned this to Parker on Friday, is the guy was a safety his first 2 years at Ohio State. Like, he transitioned to being an off-the-ball linebacker his junior and senior season. Again, that shows to me there's growth. This player is a freak of nature in some aspects, but to me, I would be worried about that because there's not a lot of a lot of substance from that position for him. That's why I'd be saying, I'll hold off on that. And again, it reminds me a lot of Femi Oladejo, a guy that transitioned from linebacker to edge rusher. Like, that's something you got to put into factor as well. So there are a lot of trends that are the same.
I think at the very least with Sonny Styles, like, you got proof of concept.
Sure.
Like, you watched him play elite off-ball linebacker this year, even though he was transitioning from safety earlier in his college career. With Femi, it was like, all right, we saw a little bit of it in college. There wasn't a ton of production, but we think there's more growth there. I think Sonny Styles would come in and immediately be a game changer on the defensive side of the ball. So that's why I would be fine taking him at 4. I don't know if I'd take him over Jeremiah Love, though. And so likely both those guys are going to be on the board. I think I'd go Love. I will say we're going to get into the ESPN. They did their draft superlatives, and Sonny Styles is mentioned a couple times here. They have him as the fastest closing speed to ball carrier, as he ran a 4.46 in the combine. They also have him as the best tackler. As TD loves to say, his number of missed tackles last year, same as the number on his jersey, 0.
Good to know. Hey, I mean, that's fantastic for Sonny Styles. Good for him. I just, I don't know if I'd be drafting him at 4. That's all I got to say. I don't know if I'd be taking him at 4. Just because of the purpose of, he's a freak of nature, but can he put points on the board? And I don't know if you can say that. Like, to me, if you'd say Sonny Styles had 0 missed tackles, does he have the points to back it up? Well, it's obviously a defensive player, but is he going to generate points?
I do agree with you that the one thing missing from the Titans right now is somebody who scores touchdowns. Like, look around this team. I guess Alec Iamaner scored a decent amount of touchdowns last year for a rookie, a 4th-round rookie. But is that somebody you're going to count on for 9, 10, 11 touchdowns next year? Probably not. Jim Dike wasn't a touchdown scorer necessarily on the offensive side of the ball. He had a handful. Gunnar Helm, Wan'Dale Robinson, I think only had a couple, 4 touchdowns last year. So right now, you don't really have somebody who's put it in the painted area. Like, got to go get somebody like that. And I agree with you that Jeremiah Love would fit that bill. And he can do it from pretty much anywhere on the field.
Yeah, and last year with Brian Daboll as the head coach in running the offense for the Giants, all you had was Wan'Dale Robinson. Malik Neighbors was hurt. You didn't have that generational wide receiver. For the Titans, it's a wide receiver by committee. Obviously, you're going to see what you can get out of Calvin Ridley. You're going to see what you can do with Alec Iamaner, Jim Dike, like you just mentioned. But you're not going to see a, one wide receiver stand out over the others when it comes to touchdown production. That's why looking at this draft and seeing certain prospects, and one being Jeremiah Love, that's a guy that can get you touchdowns immediately. And everybody knows this franchise for a historic run of running backs. Like that's one thing you can pride yourselves on if you're a Titans fan, is you have a running back to rely on. And right now they don't. I mean, nonetheless about Tony Pollard, but you go and grab Jeremiah Love, that's your running back of the future.
I have to stay consistent and tell you that does not matter. I've told callers that. I have to say,
really?
You can't look back at the past to decide what you're going to do in the future.
Well, no, I'm just saying this team has prided themselves on the run game first.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't want to pretend like I haven't called out callers for saying the same thing.
No, you're fine. I'll stick by my word and saying that this is a franchise that's prided themselves on the run game.
No, and I get that. Like, you look back and you say, Eddie George, Chris Johnson, Derrick Henry. But like, just because that's worked in the past doesn't mean it's going to work in the future. You draft Jeremiah Love because you think he's a game changer, not because we've had good running backs in the past.
Well, it's not just the running back game; it's also the offensive line. Like,
right,
that's something that has to be proven this year, and that's J.C. Latham on the right side, and not Andre Dillard. That's beyond the point. Dan Moore Jr. Excuse me, on the left side.
Please God, no more Andre Dillard.
Please no. And you have Peter Skoronski at the guard position. So if you can solidify your offensive line, and again, the guy you brought in from New York, Austin Sloatman, thank you. You bring in all these players and you can kind of get them as a group chemistry. You get that offensive push. To me, I just want to see a solid run game.
Yeah,
that's why I want to see just a generational player that can not only run the ball but also catch the ball in the backfield. That's why, to me, Jeremiah Love is the guy that's going to get you touchdowns rather than anything else.
Pair that guy with Pat Coogan too.
There you go.
There you go. MVP of the Rose Bowl. We'll talk more about Jeremiah Love as well. We'll also get your thoughts on Sonny Styles. There's an interesting text on here that I want to get to coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly wrapping up hour number 1 after this. You're on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, who is making it clear who he wants the Titans to draft next Thursday. And we will get deep into Jeremiah Love coming up in the next segment because the ESPN superlatives have some glowing things to say about the Notre Dame running back. But a couple of texts I wanted to hit on here. Let's start with Keegan. We were talking about, you said the Titans have always been a great running back team. And I said that you can't draft a running back just because of that. Like that has to be irrelevant in your mind. Keegan says the only argument that I have to the can't draft a running back just because it's worked in the past is that the Titans historically have never been a top-level passing team. Outside of a season or two, the running game is the only thing to ever bring success to the franchise for you. If it works, then it works. I will argue and put more context around what I'm saying is the reason you've had great running, you've hit on running backs and you've been a running team because that's been the player that defenses have had to look at. You have gotten game-changing running backs in Eddie George, Chris Johnson, Derrick Henry. What's the hit rate on drafting wide receivers and quarterbacks in this franchise? Right?
Not great.
Like if you had drafted better quarterbacks and better wide receivers, maybe you wouldn't be saying, oh, this is a running back franchise, a running franchise. So, yes, if Jeremiah Love is that guy that you believe is like, hey, that is a game changer, that is somebody who is going to make everything easier for our offenses because defenses can't let him get loose, then, yeah, take him. But because he is a game changer, not because he's a running back, I would say the same thing if it was Jeremiah Smith on the board here. You can be a passing team. The Titans can be a good passing team if they had better quarterbacks and wide receivers. You hope Cam Ward is going to change that as well.
Yeah, you hope so, because then, like I was talking about earlier with the wide receivers, it's saying you don't have a wide receiver that's going to set you apart from anybody else on this Titans roster right now. It's a a wide receiver by committee with Ridley, Io Manor, DK, and Wan'Dale Robinson. Sure, they paid him a lot of money, but I think he's going to fit right in as that, slot wide receiver that's going to kind of get you those extra yak yards after the catch.
Yeah, and it's not the decision that I'm arguing. Like, I think if Reese and Bailey are off the board, give me Jeremiah Love. Like, I would be all on board for it. I'm just saying the reasoning, like, I think that's a flaw. Take him because he is the best player on the board.
Right.
Not because
he's the best running
back.
Because
we've had great running backs in the past. Let's try it again. Here's another text, and I thought this was really interesting. 4312 says, with Sonny Styles, and his athletic ability, could he be a top-tier edge if he moved there? And he says he looks like a bigger and faster upgrade over Reese. I think that's really interesting. Obviously, he's never played there, right? Like he's been an off-ball linebacker who's a safety previously. But looking at the athletic profiles of Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles, who both, for the most part, played off-ball linebacker in college, Reese is being talked about as an edge rusher. Sonny Styles is being talked about as a linebacker. Arvell Reese, 6'4", 241 pounds, 32.5-inch arms, 4'4", 640-yard dash with a 1.58 split. Sonny Styles, 6'5", 244, 32 7/8-inch arms, 4'4", 640-yard dash, 1.56, 10-yard split. Gotta say, like, if you think Arvell Reese with that size and athleticism can be an edge rusher, Sonny Styles could be too. Obviously, you don't want to move a guy around too much, but maybe there are teams that view Sonny Styles as, hey, that can be a pass rusher, although I think he's probably going to end up being an off-ball linebacker. But I thought it was an interesting thought from the texter.
It is. And again, if the Titans were to go that direction, my only concern would be you can't go draft a guy like that at number 4 and risk, moving him to another position. Because, again, it's Femi Oladejo magnified at the first round level. Like, I cannot – sign up for that.
Well, it's also like Femi Oladejo, you could compare more to Arvell Reese of like, yeah, he played off-ball linebacker for the most part, but he has played edge. Sure. Sonny Styles would be like, you've never done this before. Let's see what you can do. Like, we're going to draft you 4th overall and try to do something that you have never attempted before. So I thought it was an interesting thought just because, you look at Arvell Reese and you look at Sonny Styles. Styles is bigger and faster. Like, could he possibly make that switch? I don't think he will, but it's an interesting idea. 615-737-1025. Let's go to our phone lines. Dr. Locke is called in. Dr. Locke, good morning. Thanks for calling.
What's up, fellas?
What's going on?
Hey, I absolutely stand lock. I'm walking lockstep with Parker Kelly here. what we're saying is we're drafting Jeremiah Love because he's the absolute best pick at 4. I mean, and I hear what you're saying. Don't draft somebody because it's the past. And I don't think Parker or anybody's saying that. I think what they're saying is draft him because he's the best player. He's going to get you touchdowns on Sunday. He's going to, he's going to go for over 1,000, 1,500 yards. He's going to be a 10-year pro. But in addition to all those things, you also get, it's an addition, not a because. Also, you get, on a side bonus, you get one more generational running back of greatness. I think it's kind of a bonus, not a because.
Okay, yeah, and I understand that thought process, Dr. Locke. Appreciate the call. We have had people text in and say, well, this franchise, when they've been good, it's been because of their running back. Let's do it again. I agree. It's not a because, but it is great to be able to look and say, all right, if we draft him and he's great, we'll continue to be this organization that's known for having elite running backs.
Yeah, and it's a balanced offense when you have a running back like that, because in years past we've seen it under Brian Callahan and whoever else, is that identity of this offense has changed from not just a one running back backfield, a double running back backfield.
Yeah.
And Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard. Again, that worked out to a certain degree, but I think if you have a bell cow running back that right now, Jeremiah Love is that, but yet, like he just mentioned, Dr. Locke is a bonus to his just attributes on the field, is that he can catch out of the backfield. He can also run out of the backfield. Again, if the Tides can solidify a offensive line, I think that brings back that balance in your offense. And again, I'm not trying to compare Jeremiah Love to any other running back right now, but because Brian Daboll was in New York and he had a quarterback in Daniel Jones and a running back in Saquon Barkley at a time, that kind of has that feeling to it a little bit.
And that's when he had the most success in New York, was when he had Saquon Barkley on the team. Jeremiah Love is, again, if the pass rushers are off the board, if David Bailey is off the board, I think he would be my pick in number 4. And ESPN released their draft superlatives yesterday. This was from Matt Bowen of ESPN. And it just listed off, all right, if you want the best at this trait, here is who you should take. And Jeremiah Love, he's got some pretty interesting ones. And I think if this is true, like if this is what evaluators think, I think it makes it pretty easy to pick Jeremiah Love. We'll talk about it coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, The Game, second hour on this Tuesday morning. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Lots to get to. Again, the Preds eliminated from playoff contention last night, falling 3-2 to the Sharks. The Kings beat the Kraken to officially knock the Preds out of playoff contention for the second straight year. We'll get back into the Preds coming up in a little bit. We will continue talking draft here in the 10 a.m. hour. Just got into Sonny Styles and a little bit of Jeremiah Love, but I want to really dive in on Love here, who right now still the favorite to be the Titans pick at number 4 by most of the odds. And I was looking at this article yesterday. ESPN, Matt Bowen, put out the NFL draft superlatives, and I thought it was only 50. It's 100 different skills and traits. So, Fernando Mendoza, for example, he's the number 1 quarterback, but they go through all of the different traits of a quarterback. Like Drew Aller has the strongest arm. Ty Simpson has the best passing mechanics, et cetera, et cetera. So, of course, I went straight to running back because I wanted to see, all right, what does Matt Bowen and these draft analysts think that Jeremiah Love does the best in this class? He's supposed to be this Saquon Barkley level, Ashton Genty, Leonard Fournette level running back. What does he do the best in this class? And I was really impressed with what I saw. Again, this isn't, maybe not every evaluator agrees with this, but here is where Jeremiah Love was named the best in this draft class, the most explosive rusher. So there we go. We just talked about guys who need to be able to score from anywhere on the field. Jeremiah Love, 4.36 speed. He had 18 touchdowns last season. He is also the most sudden rusher, the stop-start ability to make defenders miss. So it's a pretty good mix right there, being able to make defenders miss and get away from them. But here are the two that made me think, all right, I think the Titans might have to take him at number 4 if David Bailey is gone. Because I still think Bailey, if he's not getting to 4. If he got to 4, I think you'd have to take him. But if not, I think it's Jeremiah Love because he's also the best receiving back and the best pass protecting back in this draft class, according to ESPN. So you're getting a guy who is the best runner, the best receiver, the best pass blocker. A lot of these running backs, you're missing one element of it, right? Like with Derrick Henry specifically, elite runner. He was a pretty good pass protector. He wasn't great in the receiving game, right? Like you could set screens up for him and he could make a big play, but it wasn't like he was a super big threat in the receiving game. Most guys struggle with one thing or the other. Jeremiah Love, receiving back, he had 55 receptions and 5 touchdowns in the receiving game over the last 2 seasons. They compare him to Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson and his ability to make plays in the running and passing game, and also pass protecting. The stat here is 109 pass blocking reps over the last 2 seasons. He allowed just 1 pressure.
It's pretty good.
That's
pretty darn good.
And if obviously you got to shore up the offensive line. You do. But having Jeremiah Love, who can not only help you open things up with the running game, be a safety valve for Cam Ward in the receiving game, but also if you have to keep guys in protection, you feel good about Jeremiah Love being able to pick up blitzes like that. That makes me feel a whole lot better about taking him at number 4 because he is a complete back. There aren't going to be major holes in his game.
Yeah, and we saw last season watching the Titans that when there wasn't that running back pass block support, even if it was like a chip block or something like that, it just ruined the entire play. So the fact if you go and grab Jeremiah Love, he ends up, giving a nice little hand punch to somebody off the left side of the line. If Dan Moore Jr. is struggling one day, that opens up to a screenplay that gives Cam Ward an extra 2, maybe 3 seconds in the pocket. So that's kind of what they need going forward with this offense to develop into something even better. That's why when people like Jeff Fisher and so forth that bring up on these airwaves saying that get a running back that can help your quarterback develop, that's a aspect of the game where he can help him develop through his read progressions and just give him time to really dissect the play.
I just think there's too many reasons for Jeremiah Love to be the pick at number 4. And I've said it throughout the draft process here that all of the prospects at the top of this draft have red flags, right? Like there is a reason not to draft everybody at number 4. I like David Bailey just because I think among the pass rushers, the premium position players, his red flag is the smallest. You're a little worried about the bend, the mobility. That's pretty much it. But like Arvell Reese, he's a He's moving positions. Ruben Bain, the arm length. I look at Jeremiah Love. The only red flag you have on him is that he plays running back. Like, that is it. There is no red flag about character. There is no red flag about his playing ability. It is literally just, do you value running back enough to take him at number 4? I've seen a lot of different analysts, draft experts, have him as the best player in the draft. And when you don't have a blue chip guy at a premium position, I think you got to just take the guy that you feel is going to be the most surefire Pro Bowl level player for your team. And I think that's Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, 100%. Would you say back, I think it was the end of the 24 season, maybe 25, when Love was wearing that knee brace with the left knee. Would you say that's a concern at all or not?
Not
We're
really.
too far removed from that.
Right. Like, he didn't miss a ton of time. And it's like, the one thing I feel really good about with Love is that I feel like there's more growth to be had. He didn't have to take on the lion's share of the carries at Notre Dame, which some people may look at it and say, all right, when he starts to get more tread on the tires throughout the season, is the production going to drop off? I would just say I feel better about his long-term viability because he's not Ashton Genty, who had almost 900 touches in college. He had almost half of that. And like that makes me feel better about Jeremiah Love. You're not just drafting a running back for one contract. You're hopefully drafting him for 7-8 years like you got out of Derrick Henry.
Yeah, because if you get that production, then again, you're setting your franchise up for something even better, because then that comes back to your point about wide receivers, how this franchise has not done a really good job at drafting those wide receivers.
Yeah.
If you keep a guy like Jeremiah Love for 7 to 8 seasons and Cam Ward for even longer than that, while consistently grabbing a good core of an offensive line, that puts you in the position to grab a decent wide receiver to pair with those players.
Titans need offensive weapons. Talking with Parker yesterday, we both agreed that this offseason, I think the offense has gotten worse around Cam Ward. You add Wan'Dale Robinson, but that's about it weapons-wise. I would say Bellinger, he's a worse receiver than Chig, but he's probably a better blocker. So
he's your blocking type.
Like, I don't you're betting more in that move on Gunnar Helm than you are on Daniel Bellinger, right? Like, you're saying Gunnar Helm is going to get more targets with Chig out of the equation. But the offensive line has objectively gotten worse. So I think that the offense has gotten worse around Cam Ward. You've got to help the young quarterback. And I think of the options that you expect to be there at 4, Jeremiah Love is going to be the best option.
Yeah. Because again, you mentioned offensive line, it'll help out with the run support. I'm not run support, the pass block. I mean, that's going to be the biggest downfall of this team, because we all know what Cam Ward can do in the pocket. If he doesn't have the time, there's not going to be much production.
Right.
Simple as that.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. You can chime in, join the conversation on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And as always, all of our offseason coverage is brought to you by Tennessee Brewworks, the official craft beer of the football offseason on ESPN 1025 The Game. 615-737-1025. We'll get into some of the defensive superlatives. And also, there's a wide receiver that maybe not my favorite option at 35, but I think I'm coming around on him if he is available for the Titans in the second round. We'll get into that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Preds fans, tonight is the final Smashville Live of the season. 102.5 The Game will be broadcasting live from Brewhouse South in Cool Springs at 6 p.m. Meet your Predators players up close and personal and also get autographs and pictures. Tonight's guests will be Preds players Fedor Svechkov and Joachim Kimmel. Smashville Live is presented by Gary Force Acura. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Talking Titans into the draft, the ESPN draft superlatives. We'll get into some more players listed in this article, but first let's go to our phone lines. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Gil from California has called in. Gil, thanks for calling. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. How you guys doing out there in Tennessee?
We're doing great. How's California?
Oh, the weather's great. Nice sunny day. I can't complain. But what I was going to say is I just think that the Titans right now, it's time to they got to be not talk about it and be about it. And they were saying they want to build us up from the trenches. And I think that, if we do go Jeremiah Love, I think we have to go with a guard in the second round. And then we have to find our center, considering that we can get maybe the best center in college football. And I think we still need to re-sign Zeitler. And we can finish our defense on a one-year fix with a guy like Bosa or Cam Jordan or Javon Clowney just on a 1 year as a situational edge rusher. And I'm willing to go Jeremiah Love, but I think they really have to build from the trenches. And I just hope that they do it, considering our offensive line has been in a downward spiral for the last 4 to 5 years. And the most they did last year was get Dan Moore, and he's average at best.
No, and it's a good point that if you draft Jeremiah Love, you're investing in the run game, and the run game revolves around a good offensive line. I wouldn't love it, but I wouldn't be shocked if they go Love, if they went guard in the second. And I think the reason I don't love it is just because of all the investment they've put in the offensive line in the last half decade. But I get it's a sunk cost at this point. You got to get it fixed. So I would totally understand it if that was the way Borgonzi went.
Yeah, because they've always wanted to, bite the bullet and just put a Band-Aid on everything every single year. At some point, the Band-Aid's going to no longer have that stickability to stay on the skin. You got to put a patch on it.
Right. It's like I can be upset all I want about wasting 3 top 100 picks on Isaiah Wilson, Dylan Radins, and Nicholas Petit-Frere. Like I can continue to be upset that cost you the ability to draft Brock Bowers or Jackson Smith and Jigba. But at this point, it doesn't matter. Those guys are not on your team. It's a sunk cost. And I get what Gil is saying that like you can't really run it. I don't think you can run out there with Jackson Slater and Cordell Volson as your center and right guard or put in Austin Slopeman. I think you need to invest in the offensive line. I don't know if I'd go second round. I think you go if you're going to go guard or center on day 2. Love, pass rusher, offensive lineman, I think would be the way I would do it. So you go Love at 4, you go Malachi Lawrence out of UCF at 35, and you go, I don't know, Jake Slaughter at 66. Like just to throw names at the wall. I would feel okay about that because I think you do address the weapons need with Jeremiah Love, and wide receiver maybe isn't quite as desperate of a need at that point.
Yeah, it's not a need until next season. We'll get to that at another time. We know that. No, it's not needed right now. I could see Titans going after like an inside or an interior offensive line, like a center or guard. I don't know about third, maybe like 4th or 5th. I just don't think spending, a top 3 round player on an offensive lineman, I don't think is the right move.
Well, it's just the longer you wait, the less sure you are that they're going to be able to help you immediately.
That's
and
fair.
You probably do need immediate help. Volson is the wild card in this for me because he has started close to 50 games. Like he was a fine starter at guard for the Bengals, but he didn't play all last year. He signed a $2.5 million deal. Like that doesn't scream to me that's our starting right guard. I think he's a backup plan. And maybe if you get it, a lot of it is best player available, right? Once you get past the first round, if you're sitting there at 35, you're not going to reach on a guard just because you need a guard. Same thing at 66. And I think Volson and Slopeman are kind of your safety nets just in case the board doesn't fall your way. Zeitler could probably be included in that as well of like, hey, if you don't get a guard that you find value in the draft, Zeitler's still out there to possibly bring back on a 1-year deal. but I do think they are going to invest in the offensive line. Second round might be a little bit expensive for me, but I could see it in the third or fourth.
Yeah, fourth, I'm thinking more in that realm because, again, and I've stressed it to you multiple times. I stressed it, but just talked about it a little bit about how the Titans have, I think, the most cap in the NFL right now, like 63, 61. According to Over the Cap, it's exactly, I don't want that pop up, $63.1 million. So, I mean, you look at that and you say, if you got the resources to do it, go and grab some vets in free agency that are usable for this year. Like you mentioned with Zeitler on a 1-year deal. Like, what do you think about Joel Bitonio? Like what do you think about that? Like, I know his projected market value is like 12 million on,
Well, he's not getting that at this point.
No, absolutely not. But yeah, you could probably negotiate something to where there's more of an incentivized contract. If it's up in the $9 million range, you incentivize majority of that and you try to figure things out.
I don't know why on Spot Track all of the players are listed twice, but I'm looking at the free agent guards available. There are guys that you could look at and say, all right, that might be better than what we have. Zeitler is an example. James Daniels from Miami, he's 28. Mekhi Becton, obviously a bust for where he was picked in the draft and was expected to be a tackle, but maybe that's a project you could bring in at guard. Bitonio, you mentioned. So there are options out there. Cordell Volson is listed as a free agent on Spot Track. That's interesting. Well, then you click on his name and he's listed as a Titan. So
maybe that's why there's a lot of double names.
Couple glitches on there at Spot Track. But anyway, yes, I do think that the Titans, they are prepared to add at guard with a veteran if they need to, but I think they would like to bring in a young player. And I think they'd like Jackson Slater to start at one of the spots, right? So I think you maybe draft one and you have Slater start at the other. And it's a high risk, high reward offensive line there. Skoronski you feel good about, but that right side of the line could be Slater, draft pick Latham. If it works out, you've got the core of your offensive line for a long time set in place. If it doesn't work out, Cam Ward might be on his back a lot.
And also, too, let's not forget about it. Hypothetically, if they were to draft Jeremiah Love, that guy can't be your extension of the offensive line. Let's put that straight up. Like, we know he's a decent pass blocker, but you can't rely on him every single time if you don't solidify your offensive line.
Yeah, you can't just say, all right, we drafted Jeremiah Love. He's a good pass blocker. Get ready to play guard, Jeremiah. Yeah. Like, that's not how that works, but it is nice to know if the defense sends more than the offensive line can pick up, that Jeremiah Love is a surefire, sure-handed pass blocker behind them.
Right. He's a good safety blanket. But again, that's why it's so key on the Titans to get this offensive line situation just signed, sealed, and delivered by the end of the draft and or a week and a half after the draft.
How many years in a row have we said that?
I mean, it needs to be done. This is a new era of Titans football. Yeah. It has to be done.
It does. They've got to figure it out. I did want to mention one more player on the offensive side of the ball. The best red zone target by this ESPN article is Denzel Boston from Washington. And I've seen he's been borderline first-round pick. I think for a while he was viewed as wide receiver 4 behind that big 3 of Tate, Tyson, Lemon. I think he's maybe slid behind Omar Cooper Jr. He's in that second-round range. If you go Love, maybe you don't go wide receiver at 35, but we talk about guys who can score touchdowns. Denzel Boston would be one of those guys who it's like, hey, you get down in the red area, Cam Ward can throw it up and Denzel Boston could go make a play. They talk in the article about he can create separation on slants, but it's the fade routes that highlight his strength. Having a player that your quarterback can just, hey, single coverage, one-on-one, I'm throwing it up, go make a play on the ball. That is really valuable for a young quarterback. So it may not make sense for the Titans, but I do like Denzel Boston at 35 if he's there too.
Yeah, I was listening to Get Up this morning, and they were talking about just potential wide receivers that would go in the first or second round, and they were saying Denzel Boston is probably the most consistent prospect out of all 3 of those that doesn't have a lot of baggage with them and or concerns. So, I mean, yeah, if Boston's a guy there, then might as well snag him.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have any thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Today, the Nashville Sounds take on the Worcester Red Sox at First Horizon Park. First pitch is at 6:35, and you can catch all of the action on Sports Talk 830, presented by Family Leisure and Social Cantina. We will wrap up our draft superlatives conversation when we come back. A couple of local players made the list. Also, we'll look on the defensive side of the ball and continue with our conversation as the draft comes up in just 9 days. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Talking NFL draft as we are just over a week away. I can't wait. Will you be partaking in our draft day rewatch next week?
I think I will. Yeah.
I'm trying to get the entire station in on it to rewatch draft day next week. It's a tradition unlike any other.
And it's the day before the draft.
Day before the draft, Wednesday night, you watch it, and then you wake up Thursday morning in draft mode. you're ready to go.
Yeah, I'll get on board.
All right. I love it. I'm ready. We established yesterday that Parker has written on a sticky note, Jeremiah Love, no matter what.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that on your mirror in your room, or is that just in the office here?
Let's send it. Let's do it.
See, I am still, if David Bailey somehow slips through, Laramie Tunsil style, just falls to 4, take him.
It's not even
But
a sticky note at this point. Like, I've
it's written
tattooed
in
it on my
stone.
chest.
Yeah, there you
like,
go.
So
No regrets, Jeremiah Love. I'm still, if David Bailey is there, take him. But I think beyond that, once Goodell reads David Bailey to the Jets at 2, I'll write it on the sticky note. Give me Jeremiah Love.
Oh man, to hear those words out of Goodell's mouth when and if it does happen, I will be very happy. Very, very happy.
Well, speaking of David Bailey, we're wrapping up our conversation on these superlatives. I did want to mention some of the defensive side of the ball and players that we've talked about who maybe could be in play for the Titans at 4 at 35. At 35, I mentioned Malachi Lawrence from UCF, the defensive end. Fastest closing speed to the quarterback. He had 7 sacks and 31 pressures last year, ran a 4.52 40 time. I wouldn't mind that, like pure speed rusher off the edge. You've got Jermaine Johnson, who's a little bit bigger on the other side. I wouldn't mind a little bit of speed off the other edge. So maybe that's an option. But if you want to go bigger, like you've got Derek Moore, who is listed as best speed to power. That could be a later, like 3rd, 4th round pick. The guys at the top of the draft, Arvell Reese is listed as the most explosive pass rusher. Ruben Bain is the most physical and has the best hand usage. David Bailey is given the superlative for best pass rush moves. So you're kind of getting a different flavor with all 3 of those guys at the top of the draft.
Quick thought on Ruben Bain. Obviously, the news of with the whole off the field antics with the driving and all that. How much of that you think it will affect his draft stock? Because they've said online that it's been out there for quite some time now with this news, but like, do you think now because the draft is around the corner, this may affect him a little bit?
I think like to the public, it's going to look like it affected his draft stock, but a draft stock is just what we make up based on what we're talking about at a given time of year. If the teams have known about it for a while, which is what they've all said, like it was Brad Holmes of the Lions, like that doesn't really affect much for us. We've known about this for months. I don't think it's going to be what affects him falling, but I think he is going to fall.
Interesting.
I think he is probably an early teens pick.
Oh, the teens. Okay. I was thinking more of like near the Saints around like 8 or 9.
And there's a chance that somebody does, but I do think that maybe, and here's maybe a better way of framing it, teams may use the off the field stuff as an excuse when really they're scared of the arms, right?
Sure.
Like, and so maybe that combined with him being an outlier is what sends him down draft boards. It wouldn't shock me if somebody like the Chiefs or maybe the Saints or the Bengals at 10, if they took him. I think the Cowboys might be a team that would take Ruben Bain at 12, but who knows? Again, the draft is one of the most unpredictable events of the year. It's like you think you have an idea of where everybody's going, and then it always changes on draft night. So
yeah. Even Jordan Schultz said last week on Twitter that like this is gonna be one of the more trade heavy first rounds in a while.
Yeah. And with Bain and Jordan Tyson and Jermod McCoy, like there are a lot of talented players who have some red flags, and it's going to be interesting which teams maybe have them off their board or flipped over on their board of like, hey, we're not going to touch them in the first round, but there's a spot where maybe the value would be there. This draft has a whole lot of question marks going on right now. Quickly, I wanted to mention some of the local players who are on this list. A couple of Vanderbilt superlatives. Diego Pavia, listed as the most creative passer by ESPN. How about that?
I like it. To me, it was funny seeing that he was the most creative passer. I think it was the Arkansas quarterback that was the best scrambler.
Yeah.
So to me, trying to figure out the difference between best scrambler and best creative passer, because to me, watching Pavia, he had to scramble to create that type of pass.
So here's the way I'll put it to you. Like Cam Ward would be the most creative passer in last year's draft, but is he the best scrambler? Like he wasn't running to run as much. He was running to throw. I think that's more like Diego Pavia is not nearly as fast as some of the best scrambling quarterbacks, but he has the escapability that he can get outside the pocket and make plays.
That's fair. Yeah.
And then also from Vanderbilt, the best seam stretcher is Eli Stowers. Speed, size, up the seam.
I like that.
I think Stowers, talking with Corey Curtis last week, we said like mid-second round is where he's going to go. I would say like 45 to 60 would kind of be the range for Eli Stowers.
The tight end out is what? Oregon or Utah?
Oregon. Sadiq.
Yeah, Sadiq. Thank you. How much of a gap do you see out of him to Stowers?
I think Sadiq's a first-round pick. I think he's like a mid-first-round pick. Stowers could go early second round, but I would say like 40 is when I would start to put your Stowers watch on. And it could be anywhere from there to the end of the second round.
Sure.
And then on the Tennessee side, Chris Brazzell, best toe tapper, which I like him because of his ability to use his size and speed to make plays down the field. I also like the getting the feet down on the sidelines from Chris Brazzell. And then the cornerbacks for Tennessee also made an appearance in here. Colton Hood listed as the most physical in coverage and the best in run support. Jermod McCoy, best closing speed among DBs.
That's pretty good.
So there you go.
Chris Brazzell, toe drag swag.
Toe drag swag for Chris Brazzell.
As the kids say.
And he's the guy that I'm still standing on the table for. I don't know if it's going to make sense for the Titans to take him, but that's my day 2 guy that I really like. Let's see. Couple of texts here before we wrap up the draft conversation. 4312, who texted in about Sonny Styles possibly being on the edge. He said, I watched some video flipping from Love to Styles. I think he is a Hall of Famer in the making. He is now the conductor of the Sonny train. All right, so we've got all the conductors now. Sonny train doesn't quite roll off the tongue like Love train or Bane train, but we'll give it to you. 4312. Nevada Josh says Yahoo Sports said the Dolphins want to keep Bane in Miami. That could make sense too. 11, I think, would be a decent landing spot for Ruben Bane.
Yeah, and it's also a safe pick for the Dolphins because when you don't have much going for you on offense, you always go defense, and you can kind of build from there because defense win championships, as they say.
The Dolphins, they're going to be bad this year. So,
hey, Malik Willis, though, $30 million. He's going to shine. Just watch out for him. My goodness.
I mean, I don't hate them signing Malik Willis. They have no chance to draft a quarterback this year that they think is actually going to be a franchise guy. So why not sign Malik Willis to a low-risk deal for a couple of years and see if you can catch lightning in a bottle? I doubt it, but I don't hate the deal for the Dolphins, especially when you got all that Tua money on the books too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the sign. I just think it's hilarious. It's $30 million.
Right.
Like, you're getting off of a guy that's Tua Tagovailoa, who was $54 million if you kept him, or $45 million if you cut him. Then you signed, Devon A-Chan. Like, I mean, come on, you got all these players here. You signed to Buka money. Jaden Waddle. Like, what are you gonna do with all that? And then obviously you move off of Waddle and so forth, all that. But it's just they're in shambles.
Yeah, they've got like 65% of their cap locked up in dead money or Malik Willis. So gonna be tough down there in where do they play again? It's not South Beach, like Hollywood, something like that.
Hollywood, Florida, something like that. No, not Hollywood, Florida. It's right next
Miami
to the airport.
Gardens.
Miami Gardens.
Yeah, there we go.
That's where they have the national championship. What?
Yes.
Hard Rock.
Yeah.
Wow. Brain is just dead.
South Florida all runs together to me. It's like, all right, Coral Gables, South Beach, Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. I just find it interesting, though, you're talking about the Dolphins real quick, that Troy Aikman was a part of the, recruiting process of trying to find the next GM. And yet Miami's in primetime TV 3 times this season. A little interesting.
Yeah.
Just saying. A little interesting.
Yeah. And we will the schedule is coming up somewhat quickly too. I think mid-May is when we're going to get it. So excited for that as well. Ryan in Florida says Levis is a Thursday trade, but he's not a Thursday trade. I think at best he's a Friday trade, more likely a Saturday trade. So I really don't think Levis. I would love to see him go on Friday because that means you're probably using him to move up into the third round, but definitely not Thursday. We will get some more Pred stuff coming up in just a little bit here. I see a couple of Preds texts on the text line. We will wrap up hour number 2 coming up after this. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Wrapping up the second hour of the show. We'll get back into the Preds coming up at the top of the hour. Again, the Preds eliminated from playoff contention last night with a 3-2 loss to the Sharks, paired with the Kings win in Seattle over the Kraken. I've seen some texts on the Preds, and we'll get to some of those coming up at 11. But let's go back to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I mean, Trey has been calling in almost every show lately. Trey, good morning. What you got?
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Doing great.
Hey, I just want to say that when the news broke out of Malik Willis getting the Miami Dolphins quarterback job, I felt good about it. I like Malik Willis. I like Malik Willis, the fact that, when the ball comes off of his hands, it's so beautiful. Have y'all watched this tape?
Have you watched his tape, Trey?
I have, and I'm happy for the young man. I said I like how that ball come off of his hands. You can't do nothing but catch his balls, and I'm just ecstatic that God bless this man to get that big paycheck. Don't you know, after next year, he ain't got to throw another football and he can retire for the rest of his life? That's a blessing. I believe, honestly, that he might win 10 games.
Trey,
I believe.
How much money can actually fix someone's mouth with that money that Malik Willis made? $30 million. That's a lot of teeth to be fixed.
That's a lot of teeth to be fixed, but hey, I just believe that he's gonna do well down in Miami if they get the right components in place for him. And I believe that he might win 9 or 10 games, and I'm being optimistic about it. But I just love his football. I love his football just like I love Doug Williams' football when it came off his hands. Warren Moon football. It's just certain clans. I think the Dolphins see that too. And I think he's gonna be a big help for them. And y'all have a good day. Thank y'all. Love you. God bless you.
Thank you, Trey. Appreciate the call. 10 wins for Malik Willis, I think, is a stretch. That team around him is not very good, even if he does have a big year. It is a great story, right? Like Malik Willis, Titans fans can be upset all they want. He was never going to be the quarterback here. He never looked like a starting NFL quarterback here. It's a great story to see his development lead to that big contract. I'm rooting for him. I don't think it's going to lead to a whole lot of wins down there in Miami.
No, they don't have a supporting cast for him, unfortunately.
I'm shocked that Trey has sat down and watched the Malik Willis tape.
Yeah.
He said last year that the game against, I think it was the Colts in Indianapolis, was the first game he's watched since the AFC Championship game.
Wow.
So that was pre-Malik Willis being in the league. So
maybe he's going back.
Maybe he watched the Packers games or something like that.
That's a possibility.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go back to our phone lines. Adam in Portland is called in. Adam, thanks for calling. Good morning.
I would really like to do a sports talk show with Trey. I've said it before. I would do it for free. I would do it for free.
We need to have Trey have his own segment.
He's awesome, man. And he's dead wrong about Malik, though, dude. Like, I love Malik as the person. Just like I love Tim Tebow as a person, but I don't want either of them to start for the Titans. Like, that, I don't know, man. There's just something that didn't click right. It's like, I just always think back to the preseason when Vrabel's like snatches him out of the game going, Malik, you got to throw it, man. Stop running it. So something just didn't click right here. I hope he does well, but I just can't see it. Like, I thought it was fool's gold in Green Bay, honestly. But like I said, I say that to say, I want my daughter to marry somebody like Malik. Like, he's the best person. He's got the biggest heart. You see all the, like you've seen, I'm sure, him giving his gear away to homeless people. Yeah. Like, he's just a good guy. But but also I wouldn't want him to be my quarterback. Both can exist.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a good way of putting it. Like, Malik, I'm rooting for Malik Willis. By all accounts, he was a great person, a great teammate while he was here. And he has really put in the work to improve as a quarterback and was rewarded with this deal. I'm rooting for him. But, man, there was anybody who thinks it would have happened here, go back and watch when he had to come in for Tannehill in the Ravens game in London. I mean, that was some of the worst quarterbacking I ever saw in the NFL. 9194 makes the point of in the preseason before he got traded, he looked better than Will. That Saints game in the preseason where he connected with Bryce Oliver for a couple touchdowns. I agree. That's probably the best that he looked in a Titans uniform. But at that point, you had committed to Will Levis for that season, right? And you had brought in a backup. Why am I blanking on who it was that year? Mason Rudolph. You had Mason Rudolph in there. You'd paid him to come and be the backup. It's similar to the conversation we're having now about Will Levis and why he's going to get traded. It doesn't make sense to keep him around anymore. Give him a fresh start. And I think with Malik Willis, you can be happy for him and where he is and realize that it was never going to work out here.
Do you think he at some point gets benched this season in Miami?
Maybe. It depends on what they do. So like Quinn Ewers is still there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that could be somebody that they want to look at long-term. I would say probably not this year, but I would guess that if things are bad this year, they probably look to replace him next offseason. And if things are just okay this year, they're probably drafting somebody who's going to take over for him in year 2. I don't see Malik Willis getting through that full contract as the starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins.
You give a starting quarterback $30 million and Malik Willis. Listen to the supporting cast real fast. Malik Washington, Theo Weiss Jr., Jalen Tolbert, Tutu Atwell, Greg Dulcich, Terrence Marshall Jr., Ben Sims. I mean, that's the cash you're going to put around a $30 million quarterback.
Loaded.
I mean,
they got A-Chain at least.
Yeah. That team would win the UFL.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. That team would win in the UFL.
It would.
Sadly, they don't get to play any of those games. They don't get like an FCS game on the schedule where they could go play the Dallas Outlaws or something like that.
DC Defenders.
Do you think Jeremiah Love can nail a 4-point conversion in the UFL?
Where is the 4-point conversion from? I actually
4-point field goal, 60 yards?
Yeah, I think 60. We were leaving the studio and we were all in here watching it, and it happened. Like, oh my goodness!
It was electric.
See, I did actually. I was in the airport on Sunday, and I did actually next to the Masters. They had a UFL game on, and I did like glance over and watch a little bit of it. I can just never get into spring football. The pace of it, like there was a play down the sideline where the wide receiver's running, and it just looked like they were going in slow motion compared to watching even college football.
Maybe I want to put the pads back on. Like, I actually have a chance with these guys. No, absolutely not.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Great calls there from Trey and Adam. 2513 has come up with a title for Trey's show. Trey Time at 10 with special guest TD. Man, I don't know. TD.
That's a lot of alliteration.
Yeah, it would be. It's a lot of T's. Would TD want to be the special guest with Trey?
I think it has to be.
Or do we just like rotate people like Trey, like next man up, but with Trey? And it's like an hour long late night. Trey gets one person from the station every night to come in and do an hour with him.
That would be just pure gold. It really would.
I mean, it would go off the rails really fast, but it would be entertaining. That's for sure. If Trey is one thing, he is entertaining. 615-737-1025. We got one more hour with you on this Tuesday morning. We'll get back into the Preds. Also, we got Nick Frazier in studio, which means we do have to talk a little NSC as they get ready for a massive game down in Mexico City tonight, late night, 10:30, with a chance to advance to the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. We'll get into much more coming up in the final hour of the show. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour on this Tuesday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We are going to dive back into the Preds here. I do want to make a quick mention, though. We talked a lot about Jeremiah Love in the last hour. Adam Schefter, who was a big detractor of Love to the Titans, said, "Oh, I don't think they're considering him there." Did say on Get Up that he thinks that Jeremiah Love could go forward to the Titans now. So there you go. The one guy who has stood up and said, "Oh, I don't think that's a possibility there," now says that he thinks the Titans, the Giants are in play. The Commanders would be the floor. So
Yeah, it makes sense because in his first mock, he had the Commanders trading for Jeremiah Love. That makes sense.
Do with that what you will. Jeremiah Love definitely in play as a pick at 4 for the Tennessee Titans. But let's talk Preds. Again, they were eliminated from the playoffs last night with a 3-2 loss to the San Jose Sharks, along with the Kings win over the Kraken, has put them out for the second straight year. Couple of texts I wanted to get to quickly before we go big picture here. John in Nashville texted in and said, earlier we mentioned Aiden Fink playing Thursday would not burn a year of his deal. I just assumed he would be able to play that, 9 games that most of those young players are allowed to without burning a year of their entry-level contract. He says that's not the case because Fink is 21. It's only for players under or 19 or younger. So you would burn a year of his entry-level contract to play on Thursday if he does.
Interesting. It turns into a 2-year deal at that point. And it makes you wonder, what does that mean? And I brought it up to you during the break about how if he does play Thursday, they do burn a year. To me, that is a tryout for Andrew Burnett and the next GM of whoever it may be. This is what you have for the future.
But is one game an NHL debut? Is it worth it? I don't know. They'll have to explain that if he does play, right? There will be questions asked of Brunette and Barry Trotz and everybody involved of what was the thought process there? So we'll see for Thursday. Again, he signed his entry-level contract yesterday. So go on. It did say in the release, starting with the 2025-26 season, which is now. So who knows?
That is real interesting. I just see it as if we're just talking from a roster structure standpoint and just to see the future, I just see it as a tryout. That's all I really see it as. Not for the player, but as for the next GM of what you have going forward.
Yeah.
That I don't know who they have in mind. I know with Chase McJoe, they had on Greg Wyshynski last week, and he mentioned the name Tom Fitzgerald. So that,
that's one that would be polarizing among Preds fans for sure. And we can get into that in a second here. 1880 also texted in earlier. He says, I want to ask, do you think the Preds would have made the playoffs if they didn't sell off before the trade deadline? Can't help but think things would be better if they didn't. Maybe the thought was they wouldn't have made it far in the playoffs regardless. I don't think so. I honestly think they maybe got closer to making the playoffs than they would if they had stood pat. Right?
100%.
I think some of the young players like Ryan Ufko over Nick Blankenberg. I think Ufko was an upgrade there, even though you were trading away the veteran player. You saw moments from Reed Schaefer. You saw moments from Fedor Svechkov. Matthew Wood was on fire down the stretch. So I don't think trading those 4 pieces, McCarron and Smith and Bunting maybe would have been the one that I'd look at and said, yeah, he probably could have helped you a decent amount down the stretch. But I don't think those decisions ended up costing you a playoff spot.
Yeah, I mean, there were times in certain games after the trade deadline where you probably missed a Michael McCarron or a Cole Smith, even a Michael Bunting in some aspects. But yet, that's the whole point of having those young players. It's to get them the experience that those veteran players have already that they don't have. So if they would have made the playoffs, even trading off more players, I think they're still in the same situation.
Yeah, I mean, if they wanted to go full sell-off, it would have been Hala O'Reilly. Those were the guys that it's they are contributors at center for you. If you trade them off, it shows that you don't believe this team can make a run. Barry Trotz, I think he played a halfway game of, I'm going to trade off some of the expiring contracts, but I'm not going to hemorrhage our center depth. And I don't know if it was the right move, right? Because you missed the playoffs. I think you could have gotten something for Eric Holla that would have been valuable. You could have gotten a lot for Ryan O'Reilly that would have been valuable. Now the new GM is going to have a lot of big decisions to make on some of these veterans. Let's see. Last text, 1993 says, it's a shame we now have an $8 million backup goalie. And that's just not the case. Justus Annunen got to start last night because he was playing out of his mind. He was playing like one of the best goalies in hockey over the last couple of weeks. I mean, the game against Anaheim, we've said it plenty, was the best, analytically, the best performance by a goalie this season in the NHL. It made sense to start Justus yesterday. But UC Saros is still the starting goaltender and the franchise goaltender of the Nashville Predators. Now, do they need more from him? 100%. He has not lived up to that contract pretty much since the day he signed it. But it's a long one. He's still got 7 years left to go on that contract. I think you have to start by getting better in front of him and hope that that gets him back to the player that he was that made you want to give him that contract. Obviously, he has to be better, but he is still the starting goaltender. And I would venture that he's going to start 55, 60 plus games next year as he has for the past half decade.
Yeah. And Jake, correct me if I'm wrong with this, but if my memory serves me right, was the same conversation I had about Kevin Lankinen as well?
Right.
Him
Yeah.
backing up UC Stars and saying this could be another good goaltender as well. Ends up going to Vancouver, and Vancouver's not one of the best teams in hockey right now.
They might be the worst.
Yeah, It might be the worst. So like having a 10-26 record as their goaltender, to me, I think that's just something to keep a factor into as well.
Yeah, there's no goalie controversy here, right? Like there isn't. And anybody who wants to, it's, you've had that opinion since he signed the contract and you wanted Askarov to be the starting goaltender and you wanted to move on from Saros. That's fine. Like you can have that opinion, but that doesn't change the fact that UC Saros is going to be the starting goaltender moving forward for the Predators. They're not moving off of him. Like he is the guy. So,
and also too, let's give a little bit of credit to Barry Trotz for the Justus Annunen move, because he's the one that had the trade involved with Scott Wedgwood. Am I right or wrong on that?
Yeah.
I mean, there are things that you could say, oh, there's not a lot of substance to what Barry Trotz has done with all these veteran players like Stamkos, Marchessault, Shea, whatever. But there are also younger pieces like a guy in Justus Annunen who, again, I think you could say helped the Preds leapfrog themselves into a potential playoff spot, which obviously wasn't the case last night. But again, to the point of Andrew Burnett having him be in goal last night, that's a good thing because you're riding the hot hand. You are playing the guy that is going to get you wins right now. If Saros is not in good form, don't play him. It's the same thing as like any other sport. If you got somebody that's not feeling great, like, basketball, if you got a little bit of an ailment, don't play the player. I'm not saying Saros had any ailments or anything, but like not in good form, don't play him. Play the guy that's going to be good.
Yeah, I had no problem with Justus playing last night. You're in a 2-game season at that point, and you've got a guy who is in the zone. He is locked in. I understand riding the hot hand, but that's not an indictment on UC Saros long term as the goaltender of this team.
Yeah,
and anybody who wants to take it as that, I mean, maybe UC Saros ends up taking a massive step back. And again, he's been an average goalie the last couple of years. He's got to be better, but that doesn't mean that that they're going to move off him. He's still got 7 years left on that contract.
Yep.
Redemption, which is our good friend Johnny in Vancouver on the YouTube chat, says, if that's the case, Jake, on Aiden Fink, do not play him on Thursday. I agree. I would say if you're burning a year, what's the point for one game that doesn't matter? But again, that's something that owner or the front office, the coaching staff would have to answer to. I don't know enough about what the advantages of that would be and why they would do it to make too much of a judgment there, right? Like logically, it doesn't make sense to burn a year off a guy's contract for one game that doesn't matter, but maybe there is a reason for that I don't know about.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you, Jake. To me, contracts in hockey are just so complex because everybody's playing at a different level. It's not like baseball to where you have a guy that's playing in the minor leagues and you bring him up to play in, Major League Baseball.
Right.
The contract's a little different in that case.
Every sport has different ways that their contracts work. Like I know in hockey, there's a lot of restricted free agents, right? Like they re-signed Svechkov and Schaefer, who were set to be restricted free agents, and you would have the option baseball, it's service time and all that stuff. Like it's all confusing. I would need someone to explain to me what the advantages of playing Aiden Fink for one game and burning a year off his contract would be. I would guess there's none, but like, again, I don't know the language that would be put in the contract there that might make that a good decision.
Maybe Adam Vingan has the answer.
Right. That would, I mean, again, that would be the question. 1993 asks who would have started in the playoffs. He says not Saros. Yes, I think UC Saros would have been your starting goalie in the in the playoffs.
Oh, 100%, because Onanen coming off 3 straight games of playing out of his mind. If that's the case, they won last night. Saros is well rested, healthy, put him in net. Sure, it would be against Colorado, and we don't know what the result would have been for that. But say if that result ended up being like a 4-2 loss, people are going to still be upset. Why'd you not run with Onanen? At the same point, this is all hypothetical. You can't say that because the guy was well rested. He was the goalie to go for it that night. No, you can't say that.
I would say Saros might have even started on Thursday if you won that game. Like maybe not, maybe you go, but like let's say you come back and you win the game last night, and it was 2-1. Let's say the empty net goal never happened. Vange ties it. You win in overtime. I would probably start Saros on Thursday. It's not like, I mean, Eustace was fine last night. He wasn't a disaster, but it's not like he was the guy we saw. Thinking of the opponent, maybe I take that back of like he did just stymie the Ducks last week. So maybe I take that back that he would start, but like UC Saros did not get benched last night. It was just a decision to ride the hot hand. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll continue talking Preds when we come back. Big picture, what does this offseason look like? And what does the GM position look like as the Predators get closer to naming Barry Trotz's successor? We'll talk about that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Few more segments on this Tuesday. I might have told you this before. This was my walk-up song in high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Great song.
Yeah, it's a good one. Described the way most of my at-bats went to.
Up, down.
Up, down.
Saw the song live. It was great.
Yeah, that is a good one. That was like summer of 2017, I want to say. It's a great one. Great one. Talking Preds here. Got some text on the text line talking about the new GM and kind of where the direction of this team is going to go. I thought this was an interesting one. 3337 asked, do you think Trotz will leave the Preds in a better place than when he got here? And that's a really interesting question because I think the team at the NHL level has kind of stayed stagnant. They made the playoffs once since he became the GM, and they've kind of just been middling. And obviously last year was a really down year. You're the third worst team in the NHL. But I do look and say he has clearly upgraded the prospect pool of the future of this team. So if I had to give a yes or no answer of whether Trotz is leaving the Preds in a better place than when he got here, I think I'd say yes. Even though the NHL level obviously has been disappointing with the results you've seen, I do think he has set up the team for the future with the players he's been able to bring in.
I'd agree to that sentiment. When Trotz was, in the first stages of being the Nashville Predators general manager, that was a key emphasis when he was, interviewed on DVD multiple times, talked about going to World Juniors, talked about, certain players playing well. And then, on the latter part of his GM career with the Preds this season, that is, hasn't been much talk about that. It's been more of the players at the top end level of the NHL, which is the Stamkoses, the Marchessaults, because again, it's the last part of his career. He wants to focus more on that. So to the point of, has he left the franchise in a better position? I agree to your sentiment, Jake. I think so as well. It's just more of, it's more of when it comes to the NHL level of what Trotz has left behind, it's more just housekeeping, if that makes sense. So the next GM or president of hockey ops, whatever they choose to do, they now have to figure out the situation of how do we offload some of these guys.
There are some tough decisions to make on the veterans.
Yeah. But as for the youth players, I have no issues at all.
Yeah. I think with the draft picks he's made overall, I think everybody's pretty pleased with. Like Surin was kind of a lottery ticket when you took him, 22nd 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And he's turned into one of the better prospects not in North America right now. And the hope is that he gets over here. I believe he has one more year left on his KHL deal. So that's a guy that you feel like could be a player at depth down the middle for you. Matthew Wood's playing well. And of course, Brady Martin, you're excited for as well. So I do think the future looks brighter, but in the present, there are certainly some housekeeping things, like you mentioned, that need to be addressed. With the GM, Max Hers mentioned something to us yesterday that I thought was really interesting, and it's something that's becoming more prevalent around all of sports, is splitting up the general manager role and having a president of hockey operations and a general manager. And I said it to Max yesterday. I think people around here would have a sour taste in their mouth because of the Chad Brinker situation at the Titans and how that pairing with him and Rand Carthon obviously was not fruitful for the Titans. But that doesn't mean the system is broken. It means the people weren't the right people. I do think I like the idea there of having two guys who you bring in who maybe can have different points of view, but ones that can work together to take this organization to the next step. Everybody talks about outside the family and the Predator way and all that kind of stuff. You may be able to find a way to marry both of those things. So like, if it is Tom Fitzgerald, who first captain of the Predators, was let go as the general manager of the Devils, like I can see why fans wouldn't be pleased with that, right? It's the Predator way. Oh, it's one of Trotz's guys, and you're just sticking with the norm. I understand that. He hasn't been in this organization like a quarter of a century, and he's been to a whole lot of other places. But I think if you paired him with maybe an up-and-comer who's an assistant GM somewhere else and has fresh new ideas, maybe that's a marriage that could work for the Predators. Someone with experience of being a GM at the NHL level who has a familiarity with what the Predators organization likes to do and you still bring in that fresh voice from outside the family who can add those new ideas.
Yeah, because when you compare both of those, you're at the point now of like you're no longer see the thing going back a little bit with the whole David Poyle era. That was in the family. That was cut and dry of what he wanted to do. I think a lot of the moves that David Poyle did set Barry Trotz up for success. Barry Trotz tried to continue that family identity in some aspects,
Yeah.
but then had some unorthodox signings with Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, Brady Shea. Now you have the phase of, well, you brought up the great conversation of has Barry Trotz set the future franchise up for the future? And I think yes. Then adding on to that, then it comes to the guy that is the outside man. Say if the Preds were to hire somebody from within for one of the GM jobs and or hockey ops jobs, president of hockey ops, then you offset that with somebody else. That guy that's coming in is going to be the one to handle all that stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's
because I think if you have somebody that's hired from within, they worry about what's in the building, not with the guys that are worried about the offsetting contracts.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a relationship with those players.
Right.
Kind of to the Moneyball tactic with Billy Beane of like, didn't want to talk to any of his players. I think you bring in a GM or a president of hockey ops, whoever it is, that's from the outside of the building. Those are the ones to deal with those contracts.
I like the idea of getting a little bit of both, because like that immediately when Barry Trotz announced he was stepping down, the question became, all right, are you sticking with the Predator way? You've had 2 GMs and 4 head coaches in the franchise's history, and the second GM was handpicked by David Poyle to be his successor. Like, you do need some fresh ideas, but also you don't want to get completely away from the Predators culture. Like, I know fans are frustrated, and I get it. Like, mediocrity is not what you seek. Make the playoffs every couple of years, get eliminated in the first or second round. Maybe you make a run like 2017 every once in a while, but you're always falling one step short of being a cup contender. That's not what anybody wants. But it's also, the Preds have never really been a bad team in their entire existence. So there is something to be said for that. So I think they're keeping some of that Predators way and not getting too far away from your roots, but also injecting fresh ideas is a good idea. And also it sets more structure of the assistant GM. If you bring in somebody who's never done it before, I mean, the Titans are a prime example of bringing in guys who are learning on the job. Doesn't always work out. Sometimes you catch lightning in a bottle, and you found somebody who was clearly on the fast track and needed to be in that role and able to hit the ground running. But sometimes guys struggle because they're dealing with so many firsts, and they're dealing with so many things that they haven't experienced before, and things they're responsible for that I'm sure that maybe when you're an assistant GM, you don't realize all the things that are on the actual general manager's plate. And so being able to split that role up and have 2 guys who can kind of work in tandem, I do think that's a good idea. We'll see what they end up doing, but if that's on the table, I kind of like the idea of having 2 guys who are responsible and can use their ideas in different ways.
Yeah, my only issue is, like, again, when it comes to the head coaching situation of it all, because with the Titans, like, and again, not the same sport, I get all that, but the hierarchy of it all is a little bit similar.
Yeah.
When the coach has to report to somebody, that's my thing I'm worried about, is like, it's his, say for Brunette, say if he's sticking around to the next regime, it's his system on the ice, right? But yet when it comes to certain tweaks to the roster, who are you talking to for that?
Yeah.
That would be my biggest concern.
Yeah, and Andrew Brunette is probably the first big decision for the new GM or the front office staff that's coming in. I understand both sides of it, right? Like, I think Andrew Brunette has shown with what he's been able to get out of this team this year after the slow start that he is a good hockey coach. Like, I don't doubt that Andrew Brunette is a very good hockey coach. And I would guess he'd have success somewhere else if he left Nashville. But I also think you look and you say the talent that you brought in underachieved under Andrew Brunette. There's both ways to look at it. That's the first big decision for the new GM is what do you do with Andrew Brunette? And I would understand both ways. I do think this year you have, like last year, the conversation was, well, the roster's not changing all that much. You've locked yourself in. You kind of got to run it back with a similar group with a few tweaks here and there. Maybe you fire the coach because that's the only way you can get better. This year, I think you can make more tweaks with the roster, and you're going to inject more young talent from your prospect pool. So I could understand giving Bruno another year, but that's going to be based on what the new GM wants to do.
Yeah, and looking at it from, and we touched on this earlier about the injection of these young players after the trade deadline. To me, and if we've all seen flashes of Andrew Burnett's system, how it's worked in some aspects for this team. If you, again, to your point, stick with the young players, and also when you mentioned about how the Preds team, they never really are sucking at the bottom.
Yeah,
they are always in the middle.
it's what last year was the second top 5 pick that they've had in franchise history.
Right. Yeah. So you end up making that adoption of just all play with young players. You stick with that model, and that is your new core. I think Preds fans are indifferent about it, I would say. But if you can stick with that model of that young core, you're going to see, in my opinion, from what I've seen this past season and what you can gather on paper, if you continue with that youth movement, I would say Burnett's system will maybe come around, maybe turn a corner. But I could be wrong. 100% could be wrong.
Lots of big decisions to be made this offseason. Starts with who the new GM is, and then a lot of those decisions going to fall on his plate. But the Predators have been eliminated from playoff contention for the second straight year. And I did see Johnny in Vancouver said it is the first time in 12 years that they've missed the playoffs in back-to-back years. Crazy. So it's disappointing. I wanted to see playoff hockey. I know you did. You've been on they're going to make the playoff train from the very beginning. But
I had a whole just celebration ready for it. That'd been nice.
Your prediction did not come through.
Save it for next year.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Preds will have one final game on Thursday against the Anaheim Ducks, but they are eliminated from playoff contention and look ahead to a big offseason. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. We got a couple more segments. We will talk some Nashville SC when we come back as they get ready for a big one late night tonight in Mexico City. Next man up here on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. We've got some tickets to give away here. Let's give away a pair of tickets to Team Boxing League. Nashville Smash taking on Phoenix Fury at Municipal Auditorium on Friday night. Be caller number 2 at 615-737-1025, and you'll win a pair of tickets to Team Boxing League, Nashville Smash against the Phoenix Fury Friday night at Municipal Auditorium. Big game tonight, Nick Frazier. Nashville SC trying to advance to the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Very similar situation to their last round against Inter Miami, where it was a scoreless draw in leg one here at home. You're going on the road. Once a goal is scored, a draw means Nashville advances. So Nashville is in a good spot where a 0-0 draw, they would have to go to penalty kicks.
Right. Extra time than
penalty kicks. But a 1-1 draw, a 2-2 draw, it's a win for Nashville, and they move on to get to the semifinals.
Yeah, this second leg has a push and pull factor to it because, yes, they're the away team. Yes, they have the advantage to the away goals. But when you go to Estadio Banorte, which is Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, there's 2,200 meters above sea level. So, again, you're playing with a little bit of different elevation. Excuse me. Oh, my goodness. You're playing with a little bit different elevation. That's going to play a factor into how these guys play physically on the pitch. So it's going to be interesting. I thought it was good to see Nashville playing at its normal form to some degree this past weekend. When they took down Charlotte, they were without, Wilfred Zaha, but minus that, the connecting passes from, I'd say near the back line towards the midfield, those were starting to connect a little bit better. I mean, the two goals were from midfielders, Eddie Tagseth, Patrick Yazbek. It was Tagseth's first MLS goal of his season, of his career, actually. So that was good to see production out of the midfield. But I would like to see a little bit more from just the creativity aspect of it. Even BJ's kind of talked about cleaning up the passes in the attacking third. If they can get that back to form, I think they'll be okay. The other issue I would say might be a concern for Nashville SC fans watching tonight is Club America in that first leg at Geodis Park. They are kind of that team that likes to really mess up the dynamic of the game. They'll stall time a little bit. They'll kind of make sure you're not in rhythm per se. When it comes to them playing at home, now you're playing them in their environment, which is a little concerning. And not just the elevation aspect of this as well, but more of the fact that they can stall time. They can do what they want. And again, if Nashville, I think the more and more this game carries on as a 0-0 draw, the little bit more concerned I'd be for Nashville SC. I think they have to come out, as they normally do, as BJ Callahan likes to express, they like to come out high press early in the game, put the pressure on them. If they can get a goal, let's say within the first 45 minutes of the game, if not, I'd say the first 65 minutes of the game, that's where I think you're going to see Nashville flourish at their best. And if they can do that, pass the ball around, because it does come down to fitness. And if they can be a little bit more fit than the other team, then congrats to Nashville. I think the starting lineup tonight will be, kind of what we would think. You have Jason Palacios, Maxwell Walitzi as your center backs, Brian Schwacke as your goalkeeper, excuse me. I could see the left back position being a little bit of an intriguing one. I wouldn't mind seeing Daniel Lovitz at left back. I know Reed Baker-Whiting has been that consistent guy there during this tournament. But again, when it comes to the 2,200 meters of elevation difference,
it's tough.
That you want your younger players, especially Reed, that tends to create a lot more on that left side, playing him at more deeper into the game, the 70th minute on, where he has fresher legs, because the more and more Nashville tends to pass the ball around. And also, too, I wonder if Matthew Corcoran will be that holding midfielder for them, paired with maybe a Patrick Yazbek or an Eddie Tagseth. Both those guys, again, scored this past weekend in really good form. You'll see how they can play out. But I'd like to see some more work out of Christian Espinoza, Warren Madrigal, and then obviously Hani and Sam. We'll see what happens with them. But more than likely, if they get an opportunity, they're going to take it.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point of getting that first goal is so important. Yeah, Messi scored the first goal in that last game, and they were able to answer and equalize later on. But if Nashville can get that first goal and set the tone, it has to feel like you're basically up 2 at that point. And if you can just lock down on defense, you're going to be in a great spot. So I do think scoring early going to be important, but the elevation, the time change, right? Like, they were just in Charlotte. So, Saturday you were playing on Eastern time. It's going to be 11:30 Eastern time, 10:30 Central time when this one kicks off. So, you mentioned it. Club America is in their environment, and you hope that that doesn't take Nashville out of what they want to do too much.
Yeah, and again, I try not to overstress this a little bit, but the way Nashville's been playing the last couple weeks hasn't been the way Nashville SC's played in the first 3 weeks of the season. Everybody was just in awe of how BJ Callahan was able to get his team to score 4 to 5 goals per game almost every single time. Now that they've kind of dwindled back and they're only scoring 2 goals or 1 goal to get just a draw and or just a minuscule win, a win's a win. 3 points is 3 points. Like, don't discredit that.
Right.
I think that's a lot of people kind of overlook the thing. Oh my goodness, they're not scoring the same amount of goals. Where did we start hitting the concern button? That's why we had the conversation on Friday. It's like, it's not necessarily a panic, but it's a little bit of a concern.
Yeah.
But now that they're back to their old form of just connecting passes a little bit more than they were, I think they should be okay.
Yeah, it is. It's funny. The way they started the season, I felt set the bar so high, and it's now you're not satisfied with a 2-1 win over the weekend against Charlotte. And it's like, all right, well, they got the 3 points. They're still at the top of the Eastern Conference, and they got a chance today to move on to the semifinal of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Looking on the other side of the bracket, if they move on, they would face the winner of Tigres and Seattle, the Sounders. It is 2-0 on aggregate Tigres heading into the second leg tomorrow night. So looks like could be back-to-back Mexican clubs for Nashville SC if they're able to move on.
Yeah, and Tigres is a little bit more. I'm trying not to look too far ahead, but if Tigres is one of those teams to me, they're in the same league as Club America. They're very similar in the standings. I believe Tigres is 6th in the Liga MX standings, along with Club America is 7th. They're just right next to each other. A good friend of mine that I was talking to about this, he was saying that Club America, this is one of the worst teams they've had in the last probably 10 years, give or take.
Yeah.
So the fact that Nashville, I'm not saying they're struggling, but I think Club America is catching Nashville at the right time for them, wrong time for Nashville. Nashville has the depth that we haven't seen in the last 2 to 3 seasons, where they can actually go to the bench and say, hey, you go into the game. Like Matt Corcoran come in the 65th minute and actually produce. They actually have that now. So that's why I think Nashville SC fans should be a little bit more, not as worried about this game as, in previous years.
Yeah, a little bit more depth for this team, and it's a chance to move on to the semifinals again, trying to get that CONCACAF Champions Cup, which, again, if you win it, you get an automatic berth into the Club World Cup.
Yes.
So it's you got this deep. You beat the favorite to win it all already. Would love to see them move on today. Again, don't need to win. You just need to draw beyond 0-0.
Right.
1-1, 2-2, 3-3, whatever it is. Nashville advances on the aggregate because away goals count more than home goals. So I hope that I explained that
perfect
about as well as I could. It is a 10:30 kickoff tonight. I wish I could say I will probably be up for all of that. I might try and start it, maybe laying in bed, watching some of it, but late night caffeine special for Nashville SC tonight, 10:30 out in Mexico City against Club America. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your thoughts on Nashville SC if you have any. Last call for phones here as we will wrap up the show coming up after this. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Wrapping up the show on this Tuesday morning. Chase and Big Joe are coming up. They're out at Le Madeleine today, which is opening in Mount Juliet. So excited for that.
Great French pronunciation.
I tried my best. They'll be out there coming up at noon. So excited to listen in there from 12 to 3, DVD from 3 to 6. And I'm excited to listen into all of their Preds takes today because, I know hockey, but not nearly as much as Chase or Adam or Willie. And I'm interested to hear some of their takes on the way this season went as a whole, because it is disappointing to see this team miss the playoffs after losing last night to the Sharks. And because they did play like a playoff team. We talked about this in the first hour. Like, this team was a playoff team for 4 months of the season, but it's a 6-month season. Like, you had that stretch. You lost 11 of 13 games. I believe that stretch ended right around the trip to Sweden against Pittsburgh. And you just couldn't dig out of that hole quite enough, despite how well you played at stretches of this season. It's disappointing. I would have loved to be able to talk about playoff hockey, maybe get down to Bridgestone for some games. But they'll have to look ahead to next year. And I don't know about next year. Like, there's so much up in the air for next year's Predators team with what veterans are you going to bring back? How much are you going to see the growth from the young guys? Which young guys are going to make the team? Who's the head coach going to be? Who's the GM going to be? Like, there's so much that isn't set in stone for next year that, I mean, who knows if they're going to be sniffing the playoffs next year? I don't know.
Yeah, and talking about some of the vets there, like Stamkos, Marchessault, obviously they all have no trade clauses. They'd have to waive those if they were to move off. To me, I wonders. Obviously, they'd probably wait till see who the GM would be or whatever that president hockey ops situation all plays out. And then after that, you got to wonder, if you're a Preds fan, how much of the salary is Nashville going to retain? And if they do move off of those players, does that open up the door for Nashville to make a deal with Tampa Bay? Because the Lightning obviously didn't bring Stamkos back because of the money, right? That was one of the big components to the whole situation. So if Nashville retained some of that salary, you could see something like that being reunion.
Send the king home.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the playoffs.
Did you just trade Marchessault back to Vegas too?
Well, I mean, there was that not article, but there was a comment he made saying he wants a good youth system for his kid.
I don't know what
that was about, but then there was a follow-up article to that comment, and then people started listing off like good youth systems, and Vegas was one of those places.
Well, and I know somebody also commented that he wants no state income tax, which
Vegas is another one.
Everywhere he's played, Florida, and now Nevada and Tennessee, like that's been a consistent. So yeah, I don't know. There's some big decisions to make on these players. Like, I don't think you're going to get a ton back for Marchessault. I don't even know if you'd get a ton back for Stamkos. Like, you get more back. He's coming off another 40-goal season, which really impressive to see. But at his age, I don't think you're getting a haul back for Stamkos. And Ryan O'Reilly is the one, like, he doesn't have trade protection. And I know that Barry Trotz, the loyalty, wanted to operate like he did. Was that the right call? I don't know. I think looking back, the team missed the playoffs. Maybe you wish you had the resources that could have come back to you in an O'Reilly trade. And now, similar to what we talked about at the trade deadline, the value's dropped on Ryan O'Reilly, because if you got him at the trade deadline, you had him for 2 cup runs. You had him this year and you had him all of next year. For just one season, when his deal expires at the end of 2026-27, you're not going to get, I mean, the package that was being talked about was like, they want a first-round pick, a prospect, and an NHL-ready player. Would you have gotten that? I don't know, but maybe close to it. I don't think you're getting close to that now with just 1 year left on his deal.
No, not at all. And, the weird thing too, kind of getting back to the whole, retention of contracts, like the Preds have 2 players right now that you're trying to kind of get rid of their contracts. That's Duchesne and Kyle Turris.
Yeah.
You're still paying a little bit of that. According to Puckpedia, they say it's about 9% of the cap. So now that if you kind of look forward to the future, how many more of those guys are going to move off of? That number from 9%
could go up more. Yeah, that is a fair point. And again, at this point, with the Preds eliminated, now our eyes look to the offseason and got to find out who's going to be making the decisions. And I would think with the lead up time they've had throughout this season to find Barry Trotz's successor, I would guess maybe we get some news maybe in the next, I would say in the next month at the latest, right? Like I'd say well before the Stanley Cup is hoisted, I think we'll have an answer on that. The regular season ends on Thursday. All 16 playoff teams are known. Seeding not quite, but that'll be sorted out. For the Preds, I believe I saw that losing on Thursday would actually, and obviously the Preds aren't going to go out and just tank for Thursday, but losing on Thursday apparently would be very helpful in the Preds' hope for the lottery balls to bounce their way.
Interesting. Yeah, that is something to keep in mind.
They're 11 right now. I think they could jump into the top 10 if they lose on Thursday, depending on how everything else goes.
Also got to wonder about incentivized contracts too.
That's true.
So,
that's always at the end of every season in every sport. There's always who needs what to get a little bit more money in their bank account. The regular season ends on Thursday. I did want to mention we got like less than 2 minutes left. The NBA postseason starts today with the play-in tournament. Do we care?
Does it really?
It does. Yeah. I found that out last night.
Nope.
I was watching the WNBA draft because congratulations, Justine Passat from Vanderbilt women's basketball, drafted 25th overall by the Indiana Fever. So she is the first Vanderbilt women's basketball player drafted since 2014. Christina Fogy was drafted that year, the 14th overall. So congratulations to Justine, a WNBA draft pick in the second round last night, by the way.
Good for her.
But I was watching that and I saw they were talking about tomorrow, the NBA play-in tournament. I'm a Suns fan. They play tonight, and I did not know that. So shows you how much I follow the NBA.
I'm a Knicks fan. They were terrible for so long, and now they're decent with Jalen Brunson. I follow them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, if the Suns start to make a run, call me a bandwagon, fair weather, I'll jump in. I can't get into the NBA, at least this year. I struggled with it. So anyway, got that to look forward to tonight at least. I mean, if you're a big NBA fan, the NBA playoffs do get fun, like they do. And I'm sure I'll lock in once we get into the later rounds, but that does start tonight. That'll do it for us today. Dr. Crane, always appreciate you coming in. It was a fun show.
Thank you, sir. Always glad to be here.
Tomorrow on the show, we will have Corey Curtis, as always, on Wednesday. Excited for that. We'll continue to talk Preds as they get ready to wrap up the season on Thursday. Also, the draft continues to get closer. We are just over a week away. So we'll get Corey's thoughts on some of the latest rumblings going on around the NFL draft and the Tennessee Titans at pick number 4. But that will wrap it up for us today. For Dr. Crane, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, I'm Jake Lyman. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next. Keep it right here on 102.5 The Game.